In the last session, we looked at some things you should avoid in your lectures. Those are things that tend to decrease student engagement. In this session, let's consider a few things which help your lectures become more engaging. Now, these are not guarantees, but they make it more likely your students will get involved actively, mentally, in your direct instruction. You need to take breaks or have diversions regularly during the lecture. Now, I'm not saying that you literally have everyone just stop or that you take a coffee break, but you need to have something different besides just going on dispensing information. Every 10 minutes or so, your students need some type of mental break to process what you've just been giving them. Otherwise, they lose it and they shut down mentally. I even think about sermons and preachers. Effective preachers tend to do the same thing. You have preachers, especially in my Presbyterian tradition, whose sermons are very content heavy, but what they tend to do is, as they're preaching and going through the text and giving a lot of content, they don't ask for interaction, but every 10 minutes or so they might give an illustration, or they give an application of what they've just been talking about. Something other than just continuing to preach on the content of the text, just going straight through. Okay, just an illustration or application, something to kind of break up the flow of the information, helps our minds to process what we've been hearing. Now, we've talked about these types of things in other sessions. For example, just a physical activity might be good. Just having your kids stand up and stretch. Okay, 15 seconds, 30 seconds, that's all it takes. That helps. Doing other things like think, pair, share, doing a quick write, doing some type of formative assessment activity, any of these. Okay, just a quick break. It might just, those help. Or it might just be you giving an illustration, or a humorous story related to the material, or a brief discussion of application. You see, something that is a break from just a straight information dump. Now, throughout your lecture, you need to get regular feedback so you can know whether your students are learning. Now, the way we typically do this is by just asking every so often, anybody have a question? Or, does everyone understand? Sometimes we don't even do this. We just keep going on and we expect, well, if they have a question, they'll raise their hand if they don't understand. Those don't work. Okay? It's going to be a rare student who's going to stand out from the classmates by admitting they don't understand. And often, if they don't understand, they don't even know how to phrase a question. And if they say they don't understand, you don't know how to help them. Instead, you need to actively solicit feedback. Okay, I've mentioned in another video about using student response systems, either low-tech ones like personal marker boards, yes-no sticks, or multiple choice cards, or high-tech systems like clickers or websites like Socrative. You can also do some of the things we've mentioned in some of the other sessions, like think, pair, share, writing brief responses, or other things like that. The point is, take a moment regularly during your lecture to get quick input from your students about their understanding so you can see, am I communicating? Am I not? What do I need to do from here? Now, you might say, okay, I don't have time to do that and still cover the material. I've got this body of material I need to get across and I've got 50 minutes to do it. And if I'm taking a break, if I'm getting this type of feedback every 10 minutes, I'll never get through it. I understand. But remember, your goal is not to present material, but for the students to learn the material. You can present all the material you want, but if your students are not comprehending it, you're not teaching. If you have an hour of class and you actually lecture for 40 minutes while you're using the rest of the time to get feedback, and the students understand 30 minutes worth of your lecture out of the 40 minutes, that's much more effective than if you lecture straight for 60 minutes with no feedback and students only understand 10 minutes worth of it. So again, the idea is student understanding. That's what teaching is all about. Another element of effective lectures is that you ask questions that require students to think. Now thinking here might just be low-level factual recall. I mean, that's fine if you're asking just basic factual questions, or it might be questions that provoke higher-level analysis. But the point is, you need to ask questions that actually stimulate the students to think in some way, as opposed to the rhetorical questions or too obvious questions that we mentioned in the last session. You want to be asking things where they are actually going to have to recall something or think about something. And you need to think about this ahead of time if you're going to be effective. Think through questions that will actually engage the students in working at remembering or analyzing the material. The process of remembering something helps cement it in their minds. Another type of question you can ask during your lecture is a question that requires students to discuss something with one another. It might be questions of application, such as in a Bible class. Like after you've talked about Paul's teaching in Ephesians 1, ask, what difference do you think it would make in your life if you believed Paul's teaching about predestination here? Get some discussion going among the students, or have them turn to small groups and discuss it for a few minutes. What happens is that the content gets more firmly planted in their minds. As they verbalize their thoughts, it cements things mentally for them. It doesn't need to take long, just a couple of minutes, and you can have a real quick discussion, a quick thing, but it helps them learn the material better. So I hope these suggestions will help you make your lectures more effective. As I say, they're not guarantees, but things like this will make it more likely that your direct instruction actually results in student learning. Now, in the next few sessions, we're going to look at two specific subjects in the curriculum that particularly lend themselves to ineffective, unengaging material and which can be made effective. So we'll be looking at those beginning in the next session.